When a human being is challenged, he responds in vivid ways, and the further he's pushed, the more intense response he will have. This is a story about a man whose biggest challenge was outside the octagon, a man that's been fighting since he was a child, against the type of foe that honestly just make a UFC fight look average. But the journey started far away from the limelight. It actually started 7,800 miles away from his current Las Vegas home, in Batié, Cameroon. Everything began here for the Predator. It's 1992. Francis is 6 years old, and his parents have just divorced. He started hearing that his father had a really bad reputation as a street fighter. He used to beat him and his mom, and to add insult to injury, his dad was a karate black belt. Even his friends wouldn't give him a break. They were constantly telling him that he was violent just like his father, and it didn't sit well with Francis. I was moving from family to family, he said, and I didn't stop reminding me that I was just a cousin and not a brother. But I understood that I couldn't have attention in a family that wasn't going well since the beginning. It was at that moment that I started developing my lonely personality. Looks like a grown man is talking. He was self-aware at a young age. Even if Francis didn't know exactly what he wanted to be, he was sure of what he didn't want to be, and he didn't want to become like his dad. It's 1995. Francis is 9 years old, and he has to work in a sanctuary to support his family and pay for school. But it wasn't enough. He used to get sent off class for not having a pen and paper. Yes, you heard that right. A 9-year-old working in the sanctuary to pay for school and still doesn't have a pen. Here's a clip of Francis working in the sanctuary. A grown-ass UFC heavyweight struggling with it. He looks exhausted. Imagine doing this as a child. It's 2008. Francis is 22, and despite reluctance from his family, he sold his motorcycle to buy boxing equipment, and the journey to be a professional boxer had just begun. On a side note, a motorcycle in Cameroon is a source of revenue. It's not your average motorcycle. They call them mototaxi in French. They serve as a taxi. It's pretty dangerous since most of them don't have a driving license, but you know, gotta put food on the table. And the guy's been working in sanctuaries. I don't think he would be afraid of a motorcycle accident. Some people die in those quarries, suffocating under the sand. I guess riding without a license isn't that bad after all.
Au bout d'un moment, j'en avais marre de cette vie. Une vie pas animée, pas ambitieuse, pas rien. Les gens, il y a certains, ils font ça à 20 ans, ils sont pareils ici. Et moi, ça me faisait peur. Surtout quand je voyais des plus âgés qui touchaient peut-être le même salaire que le jeune qui fait ça pour payer sa scolarité. Et ça me faisait paniquer.
After 1 year of training, he was diagnosed with hepatitis B and had to put his training on hold to take care of himself. After that, he did various odd jobs to make ends meet, but he knew it was time to leave the country for something bigger. It's 2012. Francis is 26, and the journey to hell is about to begin. He decided to leave the country heading to Europe, looking for an opportunity to be a world-class boxer.
You can't just live your whole life with a dream without attempting something. You know, I was, 26 years old at that time. Mm-hmm. Then I'm like, you know, I'm done surviving. I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna try, I'm gonna chase my dream. I mean, am I fair? But I have to try at least, you know.
He went from Cameroon to Nigeria to Niger to Algeria, and then they crossed the desert to reach Morocco. As they were migrating illegally, you probably guessed it, they were constantly hiding from the police, eating out of trash cans. Here is what Francis had to say about it.
So we was illegal, you know, like those
Similar like Mexican trying
Did
to
you get a
cross the
job?
border.
Did you get jobs?
No job. Sometimes we live in the forest, hiding for the cops, trying to cross the border to go to Spain. And anytime that, and it
Did
was
you
a
have food?
no.
How did you eat?
Sometimes we have to go hunt. Sometimes we have to go wait to the trash truck
Did
to
anybody ever
come.
see you
Then
and just say, "Hey, need food?" Never.
no, when we have to hide because we didn't know who was the police or not, and there was like in a regular clothes sometime to come there
Detectives, yeah.
catch us, yes. And when I went in the rough, sometimes you have a hard time, and we have a chance to go to. Sometimes you have a chance to go on use internet on tonight. And I always watch boxing because my dream was to boxing. That was like my motivation to watch Mike Tyson on YouTube because that's when I never watched your fight live because I grew up in Africa and I didn't have a damn TV, nothing like that.
After a few months of traveling, Francis is now in Morocco, and crossing the border from Morocco to Spain is another ball game. As they say, the last mile is always the hardest, and it was definitely the hardest for Francis. In order to reach Spain, you either pay a boat smuggler 3,000 euros, which is the safest illegal way to cross the border, or you cross the Melilla border, which is a Spanish enclave in Morocco, meaning that if you have foot on Melilla soil, you are officially in Europe and they technically cannot send you back to Morocco. You guessed it, Francis went for the second option, which is to cross the infamous Melilla border. He tried to do so 7 times. Yes, you heard that right. He tried 7 times, which took him a whole year to cross, because every time he failed, they sent him back to the desert, so he had to go all the way back to Melilla. The Melilla razor wires, I will never forget them. I have scars in my hands, legs, ribs, I have them everywhere. After spending some time in Melilla, they cross the Mediterranean Sea in a small boat, where there are like 20 people there. And before they actually reach their destination, they jump off the boat to resume their road by swimming. And a lot of them don't know how to swim. To sum it up, it was just a disaster. But Francis Ngannou always finds a way. Now in Tarifa in the southeast of Spain, he got locked up for entering the country illegally for 2 months. I bet you it was a vacation for him. Guaranteed meals and a place to sleep is a 5-star hotel compared to what he's been through. It's 2013. After 14 months of suffering, Francis is finally in France, where he found a homeless shelter to stay at. You would probably say that he felt good, and that it was a well-deserved rest, but that was not the case at all. Not because of the food or the conditions, but because of the mentality of his peers. I went there once, but I felt so much negativity. I knew that it would slow down my momentum. I didn't come here for misery, I came to conquer. So instead of sitting there in the middle of negative vibes, he simply decided to move to a parking lot.
I found a parking lot who was my new home, my first home in Europe, for a few months before having friends who helped me. But the controversial thing is like when I was sleeping in the parking lot, sometimes thinking about it, it seems like very tough, very difficult as a situation. But at that moment, I didn't feel it as a tough situation because I was so happy. I was so excited for the new opportunity that I had. I was like, okay, here we are. This is the land of opportunity. This is what I always wanted, just an opportunity. I was so excited and happy the way that people that I met would tell me that, hey man, calm down, don't over expect because you might get disappointed. You know, uh, Paris is not. I mean, Europe in general is not just like a paradise that everything you just get everything for free. And that's I always tell them, I never expect that I will find somewhere and on earth and it will just be like a heaven on earth. I mean, but I believe that with opportunity, I can create my own little paradise.
Little did he know, he was close to creating his little paradise. He started looking around searching for a boxing gym until he found the guy who was about to be his best friend, Didier Carmon. He took him under his wing, provided him shelter, money, food, even bought him a new pair of sneakers. He played a major role in Francis' development as a fighter and simply as a human being. To know that a friend is having your back like Didier did is refreshing after all he has been through. After a few months of training, he told him about MMA, and Francis' response was, "What is MMA?" Didier went on and explained what the sport was about, what is the UFC, and after a long debate, Francis still wasn't having it. His dream was still to be a world-class boxer. One day when his boxing gym was closed for holidays, he was volunteering at a homeless shelter, but he didn't want to stop training. So the owner of the shelter recommended him to Fernand Lopez, the head coach of the well-known gym MMA Factory. Once there, guess what Lopez told him? "You should try mixed martial arts." He convinced him to at least give it a shot. But whatever happens, happens. And on top of that, he told him you can make money quicker in MMA than boxing. So Francis was all for it. After 4 months of training, he had his first fight that he won via submission, as surprising as it may sound. But after suffering his first loss in the second fight, he didn't want to leave the sport on loss, because remember, the guy wants to be a professional boxer, not a mixed martial artist. But after the loss, he went on a 4-fight win streak. Then the UFC called, and you can't say no to that. He jokingly said that the UFC stopped him from pursuing a career as a world-class boxer. It's 2015. Francis signs with the UFC, and the rest is history.
All eyes on the way I vibe when I walk into the room. Wind blows underneath the soles of my brand new pair of shoes. I got the attention, I'm on a mission. No sweat in the way I step, I got a fresh new attitude. Oh my, 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 oh my, my, my. Call me a king, can you buy me a crown? Oh my, 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 oh my, my, my. I'm leveled up, and this is my world now. This is my world now. So anyone who tried to write me off, tell them they can go and write this down. This is my world now. New look, got the switch, my power can't be denied.
Not a lot of people burning up Mick Maynard's phone to try to get a matchup with Ngannou. Goes the Reem! Francis Ngannou has arrived!
Whoa! That's what we were talking about, ladies and gentlemen.
Paging Stipe Miocic, Francis Ngannou.
Tell them they can go and write this down. This is my world now. Pay attention. I'm on a mission. I'm there with a vision. Got a passion. Making it happen. Ready for action. And this is my world now. This is my world now.
Now that he thinks about it, Francis himself can't wrap his head about how he could surmount all these obstacles.
So, like even now, when I think about some part of it, I'm still asking myself, what was happening in my head?
Yeah.
I can't understand why I took all those risks. I mean, sometimes it's still unbelievable for me.
And you lived it.
I lived it, you know. So yeah, it was a dumb thing. It was crazy.
It's not, but you're here. You're here now.
Yes, you know, but they say the fate can, in French we say fate can move the mountain. Wow, that was a hell of a mountain.
Francis comes back frequently to his hometown village in Batié, Cameroon, where he built a boxing gym for the youngsters to train for free. He has a foundation to give the children of his hometown an opportunity to dream and achieve bigger things in life, something that he definitely didn't have growing up.
Rural comme ça, il y a toujours ce fléau qui est le fléau du découragement et manque de confiance en soi-même. Alors le centre, la fondation est un peu basée, conçue dans le sens de motiver les enfants, les pousser d'abord à croire en eux-mêmes parce que faut reconnaître que tous les enfants qui viennent ici, on n'attend pas forcément d'eux qui deviennent des sportifs de haut niveau demain. C'est juste une façon de les galvaniser. C'est un peu ça qu'on veut mettre dans l'esprit des enfants et aussi leur permettre d'être ambitieux. Une fois qu'un enfant a de l'ambition, une fois qu'un enfant a du rêve et croit en lui, je pense que le succès n'est qu'une question de temps. Je pense que la famille est importante pour tout le monde. C'est notre appui, c'est notre refuge. Quand on a vécu dans une certaine situation de précarité et qu'on a franchi beaucoup des obstacles, c'est en ce moment qu'on connaît la valeur des vraies personnes, qu'on connaît la valeur de la famille. On est plutôt une famille soudée. Je pense que dû à notre situation de précarité qui nous a plutôt rapprochés et amenés à être solidaires entre nous. On a également appris à vivre avec nos racines. Pour savoir où on va, il faut savoir d'où on vient. Donc, quand on avance et qu'on a tendance à se perdre, le mieux, c'est de retourner, c'est de rentrer sur ses pas pour mieux s'orienter et à mieux avancer pour savoir où on finira par arriver.